Hey, everybody. I am just going to run through kind of the parts 3 and 4 for the PhET Lab on forces in motion. Obviously, you can find it here in Google Classroom. You're going to want to make sure that the Google Doc and the PhET Lab is open while you are working through this. For part 3, you'll be able to find that if you scroll down a little bit. We're going to kind of just run through at least this first section. So again, before you start, you'll want to get to the acceleration simulation. There are two kind of like questions you're going to answer beforehand before you kind of get started with anything. And then again, it has kind of the directions of what you're going to do. I do have some of this already filled out for the boxes, but again, you're going to open up that acceleration simulation, check all the boxes, and then move the friction slider to none. So again, in the PhET Lab, we'll open that up, put the friction to none, check all these little boxes. And then before we start, we want to make sure we hit pause. And then if we look at the directions, again, that's what our step A, adjust the applied force slider to some positive value. So what that is this button down here. So we can say move it up to, again, it can be any value. Let's just say 41 for this scenario. And then we are going to record that information. So we had a 50 kilogram mass. In this scenario, it will actually be 41 newtons. And then once we run the experiment, we will be able to get our acceleration. So now that we're ready, we can hit play. And then if you look right here, you'll see the acceleration is 0.82 meters per second. And we can put that into our chart. So 0.82 meters per second squared. And then you're going to do that 4 more times. The weight is going to stay the same. You're just going to change the amount of force and then do the acceleration that shows. And then in tables 3 and 4, you're going to do basically the same thing, except you're going to increase the mass. I would recommend keeping the force consistent between each of the graphs, but that is up to you. You can kind of create them however you choose. And then when you get into part 2, we're still going to be in the acceleration simulation. And again, it's going to have you answer some questions before you get started. And you're going to do basically the same thing as above, except this time we are actually going to have some friction. So to get it restarted, we click the orange button here. Again, make sure all of these are check marked. Click pause. And then we're going to move this friction. You can obviously you want to try to make it a spot where you can always get it to the same. And then we're going to do, say, 50 newtons, and then click play and see what happens to the acceleration. So this scenario, it ended up being 0, which is a fine thing to put. So we had 50 kilograms. We did it with 50 newtons of force, and then the acceleration was 0. So again, you're going to do the same thing, keeping the mass consistent, and then increasing the force each time. It will then ask you some questions about, kind of what happened. And then after that, there is going to be some discussion questions that's going to relate to everything, hopefully, you got from all of the different sections of the PhET Lab. So if you have any additional questions, make sure you're coming to office hours, reaching out if you need any additional assistance. Thanks, everybody, and good luck.